me, Smith. I'm an agent of Goldstein. I didn't know it myself. Thought crime is so insidious. It just creeps up on you. My daughter found it out. Very proud of her. Very grateful I've been discovered before it's too late. They won't shoot me, will they, Smith? I know I could be very useful in a labor camp.
Room 101.
No. Please. You don't have to take me there. Why? There's nothing I won't confess. Nothing. I've told you everything already. What is it you want me to know? Take him instead of me. He's the thought criminal. It's him you want.
What a weird day. Whew. Some crazy stuff is going on, I've noticed. Well, it's not that crazy to me because I already told you, everybody, this was exactly what was going to happen. So, I just want to say thank you to all of the, let me pause that, to all of the peaceful people that just wanted the world to be a better, safer, not necessarily more free place, but more safe, and people's rights protected. And that's why I just want to thank everyone for voting for such a peaceful presidential cabinet, a peaceful government. And I'm just so glad that we're now able to go back to the Middle East and bring freedom and peace again. If you've noticed the news today, for the first time in months, perhaps for some of you, maybe years, you heard about a Middle Eastern foreign country suicide bombing today. Isn't that weird that you haven't heard about that? Not that the media has been, say, blocking it or editorializing around things that happen in the Middle East, but you got to find it ironic that on January 21st, one day after Joe Biden became president of the United States, which he will remain until Kamala takes over, they're already boosting troop levels again in the Middle East. Now, if you haven't heard about this and you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll pull it up and I'll show everybody. There we go. Click on that. Click on that. Boom! President Biden is considering reversing Trump's drawdown in Iraq by adding thousands of troops to combat. You know what? Hold on. Not everybody gets everything perfect right away, and I know that this is a very forgiving audience, so let me just start that over. Why not? Maybe we'll cut it out later. Maybe we won't. You know what? Let's not, because nobody's perfect, except the American government. But let's try this again. That's me rubbing my hands. President Biden is considering reversing Trump's drawdown in Iraq by adding thousands of troops to combat, that's where I messed it up, to combat growing terror threats in the region as evidenced by Thursday's attack, let me move that, near the U.S. Embassy. So, there was a suicide bombing, apparently. Now, I don't know how much the CIA paid these people's family to do that. Joke. It was just a joke. CIA, calm down. I'm just kidding. But it's very interesting how I don't think it won't matter what the American people want, obviously, but I don't think you're going to get the American people to go along with more war in the Middle East. Now, I should rephrase. I don't think you'll get the majority of Americans to agree that we should essentially go back to war in the Middle East. Now, that doesn't matter because they're just going to do whatever they want, which is war in the Middle East. So prepare for it because it's going to happen. But maybe these Baghdad bombings won't be enough. Maybe you might see an uptick in terror attacks in the United States. Probably from, let's say, what did they used to call them? Because I haven't heard about them in so long. Islamic extremists. Maybe from them. Maybe from right-wing extremists. I don't see how that'll help your cause in the Middle East, though. So you might see an uptick in something you haven't seen in a very long time, which is Islamic extremism. Now, speaking of the history of Islamic extremism, a lot of people either don't know or don't like to admit that the reason a lot of these things exist is because of United States government interference in the Middle East. I know, it's hard to hear for some of you. It's probably hard to hear, but you probably know somewhere deep down inside that the United States government was also responsible for creating a lot of these terrorist organizations that, the United States media would hand in glove with government would have you believe these were just things that happened on their own independent of United States policy. My opinion, see, I have to be careful, my opinion, that's a fucking lie. You can trace back the roots of ISIS to the Obama administration. In fact, you can trace a lot of roots back to Islamic extremism in the Middle East to United States government policy. That includes regime changes, just basic meddling in foreign affairs that isn't our business other than, forgive me, oil people, other than to profit United States companies, either via oil, via limited, what do they call them? Rare, like rare earth minerals, things of that nature, and military contractors, military contracting. So, let me just say this, America. If somebody suicide bombed a bunch of people in Baghdad, I think that's where that was, right? In Iraq. Let's just say Iraq. Why the fuck does the United States give a shit? I'm sorry, why the F does the United States give an S? Take that out in post. It's a family show. I don't know. Another thing, let's just diverge here a little bit, but stay on the same route. Where did the anti-war protesting go after all those years of protesting war? Don't those people remember, since they were so invested in being anti-war protesters, just how these things come about, how they begin with, I don't know, random suicide bombings in faraway nations that does not affect the United States? Let's look at it from this point of view. What if there was an extremist right-wing group or individuals who blew themselves up in the United States? Is Iraq going to send troops to the United States to stop extremism? So why does the United States feel obligated to always go into countries where there's a lot of room for profits to be made? In this example, oil and military contracts. Why does the United States constantly feel the need to intervene, knowing that United States intervention into Middle Eastern affairs, has really only destabilized these nations? Every time. And now, if we get back into Iraq, you got to realize it's very close to Iran, which the current administration seems very eager to go to war with as well. I find it ironic that supposedly Iran is tweeting, by the way, no problems there, tweeting violent threats against Donald Trump even while he's no longer in office, probably for the assassination of, what was his name, Hassan Khamenei, something like that. He was like the head general over there. Twitter didn't take that down, by the way. Now, the United States government calls the people that committed today's acts in Iraq extremists. Maybe they call them terrorists. I don't know. It's so weird how they kind of stopped using the term terrorist when it came to situations like these in these other countries. But they're so quick to demonize thousands of people and condemn them as terrorists in their own country for meandering around the Capitol building. No bombs, no explosions, no fires, no murders, no rapes. They'll have you believe that the cop was the officer that died in the Capitol protest. They'll have you believe it happened due to protesters. I believe they say they bashed him to death with a fire extinguisher. But somehow he died later. But anyway, after returning to the police station or whatever, then I'm also seeing that that was absolute bullshit. But your media is just going to run with it. Now, let's say the protesters did. Let's take a dark turn. There was still, what was it, 4 other people killed? Now, they're not saying how the other people died. Now, they were quick to jump to this policeman at the Capitol being murdered by vengeful right-wing extremists. But how do they justify not explaining what happened to the other 3 people, as there's videos of cops throwing people off buildings? There's a video of what appears to be a Secret Service agent shooting a woman in the neck with a barricade in between them, who was no threat to this man. Now, let's get back to the government's take on when a police officer shoots an armed man reaching for a weapon. Now, keep in mind, I'm no defender of the police. A lot of you know that. But the government all but calls that hate crime. And they say all these things need to be done. We need to reform the police department. I say abolish it. We need to crack down on these officers. But the guy who assassinates a woman who wasn't anywhere near him, wasn't going to get near him, and he shoots her in the neck inside the People's Building, that is the Capitol. How much longer till Biden, I don't know, pins the medal on the guy's neck and calls him a hero? How much longer? I don't know. But anyway, while I got you thinking about all that, just prepare yourselves for the United States to ramp up its perpetual war against nations who really don't affect the United States. But they'll tell you it does. Something to do with extremism, who knows? Oh, there's a suicide bomber in Iraq. I believe ISIS, by the way, has just recently claimed responsibility for that. So, just before you go, oh, these GD ISIS people! Just remember that ISIS was created by the Obama administration. There's really no way around it. So, maybe you should just stop believing everything they tell you when it comes to war in foreign countries, because they're lying to you, and they always have. They've been caught lying the United States citizenry into war time and time again for almost every war we've ever been in. Every modern war, I should say. Oh, we got to stop the communists from spreading in some small Asian island. Let's go kill tens of thousands of our own troops. Because that, that's within our interest to worry about. Korea or Vietnam. Now, I know some of you are saying, but look at North Korea. They're bad. I don't care. Let them be whatever they want to be. Why is it the United States' job to deal with North Korea? You know, it's funny. North Korea, the problem, if Kim Jong-il, I forget which one because I don't give a shit, is such a bad person, and that's such a bad regime, and something has to be done about that because of the human rights violations, the atrocities. If they're so bad and their nuclear program is so dangerous, why is the only people that give a shit the United States? If they were so bad, wouldn't the world come together and go, enough's enough? We're not doing it. Are they bad? Are they not bad? Don't know. Don't care. Not my problem. That's the thing. They made you care about people in faraway lands you'll never see. They made you care about them more than your own neighbors, more than your own fellow citizens. In fact, more of your own fellow citizens would rather see you dead than Kim Jong-un or Il. I don't remember. I really forgot which one is in charge right now. Let that sink in. There's more people in your town that are totally complicit in your death than there are people worried about Kim Jong-un. Let's just go with Un. Oh, fuck, these people don't know. Anyway, think about it. The war is in the United States. It's people versus people. There's military surrounding the Capitol. Now, what the news is saying is the troop drawdown in D.C. is beginning to happen as things level out, but there's still plenty of troops and police officers from multiple departments watching over the Capitol for right-wing extremist terrorists. So what they're doing, in essence, is just, they're like, yeah, we'll take the troops away. Not all of them. Because it's acceptable now to have troops in D.C. We've all accepted that by not doing anything about it. Not holding our government officials accountable for not being representative of the United States. And if you think that they are representative of the United States, you're wrong. They're representative of military interests, of big tech interests. That's who they represent. Now, keep in mind, the average, not even person, but the average neighborhood, the average town does not have a lobbyist. Washington doesn't give a shit about you. The Trump administration, remember when he goes, members of the Trump administration are not allowed to lobby in Washington for 5 years after serving in this administration. And everybody goes, that's right. Drain that swamp, everybody. Well, guess what? They lifted that. You can now lobby. Now, I would imagine if I went and talked to 10,000 random people, they've never talked to a lobbyist. But somehow, lobbyists get to talk to your politicians every single day. And while the politicians claim to be representing you as their job, as their sworn duty, and upholding the Constitution, they don't hear from you. You might get an intern on the phone. You might send some emails that they're never going to read. Do you think if you typed out an email to your congressperson and you were like, you know what, I'm going to get out all the facts, I'm going to be stern, I'm going to demand that they represent me, and I'm going to bring up some very good facts. I'm going to bring up some very good things that are affecting us, great points, that an intern or some email reading bot is going to be so compelled to get this message to my representative. I'll make a difference. I'm sorry, their meetings are full. They have to go play golf for a 2-martini game with the head of some missile maker. Especially now. We got to get those missiles back to the Middle East. We're losing money here, folks. Have you noticed, not to sound too left-wing, have you noticed that the rich have gotten exponentially richer since we started going back to war in all these Middle Eastern nations? I'm talking about post-Bush Sr., pre-Bush Jr., when we started going back and have been there ever since. All the rich, doesn't matter if they're military contractors or whatnot, or tech giants. The rich get richer. Now, think about this. Even the richest company in the world, now let's go with richest person. You can use company too, but take Elon Musk right now. He's the richest man in the world. Unless that has changed again, because, money's not real. But I think his wealth is, several hundred billion? I don't know, I'm just guessing. 140 billion, 180 billion, 300 billion, who knows? The United States debt is $27 trillion. Now you might be saying, what do you mean by that? Even all the richest men in the world don't come close to $27 trillion. Now after $27 trillion of spending, you think all of our houses would be made out of fucking gold? You think our airports would be monuments to the great American experiment, and our jets would be top of the line, and our roads would have heaters in them, so whenever it snowed and iced, it'd be no problem. I mean, just imagine $27 trillion being spent by the United States government via the United States taxpayer and their faith in the system, because they don't have $27 trillion. It's not real money. Why do the majority of people in this country feel like not only have they not seen any progress in their own lives, they've actually seen the regression of progress? $27 trillion. Now, the United States Middle Eastern wars for, I believe, maybe 10-year period. Don't quote me on the amount of time. The United States spent somewhere between, there's not even an official figure, so it's probably much higher than this, 6 to 10, you ready for this? 6 to 10 trillion dollars on freedomizing the Middle East. That's right. 6 to 10 trillion dollars. If you were to cut that up into billions, right? How much could your local municipalities get out of that much money? And that's not the 27 trillion. That's the 6 to 10 trillion, which is probably higher than that because they lie about money. But luckily, the one great thing about spending all that money on the Middle East is they're free to this day. Free from oppressive regimes, free from torture. They're able to practice the religion they want, practice the speech that they want to say, and they can finally sleep in their beds at night comfortably knowing that America brought them freedom. Up next, Twitter and Parler. So there's now the digital assassins that work for, I don't know if they work for free. I was going to say the digital assassins that work for free to take down, with the consent of the largest corporations in the world, to take down these very small competition platforms. And all they have to do is say, well, that platform supports right-wing extremism and domestic terrorism, so we got to shut you down. And the government's okay with it. And the people are okay with it, which is the most frightening thing to you. I'm not really frightened by it. In fact, one day I can't wait to just stop doing this show and go back to my living. My living of sitting on a porch, having a nice iced tea, nice sweet iced tea, or maybe some lemonade in the summers. Mowing my yard, growing my garden, my tomatoes, and making things from scratch, whittling wood maybe. Because really, what's the point of continuing to contribute to this system that does nothing but take from you? But while that's still going on, I suppose I will carry on. I will grab my torch and I will say, hey, world that's still listening, world that still cares or is aware of what's going on and needs to be kept abreast of the situation, which is a very small percentage, obviously. You can blame the left and the right for being... I guess it's not willfully ignorant. I guess they just don't know any better. Products of the American education system. Another thing we have spent more money than anybody else in the world on. Great return on your investment, right, America? Most people are easily convinced that it's real. It's all real. Most people will believe whatever the media tells them. I saw, and the government, by the way, the media and the government. I saw a poll today that said the trust in the United States media is faltering. Recent poll says it's down to 46%. Let that sink in, if you believe polls, which I don't. But let's just say we do, for argument's sake. I would have thought that number would have been much, much lower. I'd like to know how the question was phrased. But then again, I don't give a shit. I'm not looking into it. Why are you looking into it? Aren't you part of the media? I think I've given plenty of examples and reasons why I'm not looking into it and you shouldn't look into it. But I'll do it again. Because you'll never know the actual truth. They're master liars and manipulators. You'll never know the truth. I looked up the guy, Kerry Mullins, who invented the PCR test for the rapid COVID tests. And I just put in his name. I put in PCR test inventor. Or maybe it was just PCR inventor. You can do this right now. I'd like to know your results. The first Google result to pop up was one of those. It was a Reuters article. Kind of looks like it's spelled Reuters. It was a Reuters article. I never clicked on it, but you can read the little blurb about what's in the article, and it said or what they saying? Did he ever say blah blah blah? Did he say that you shouldn't really use this this test for coronavirus or whatever? First result, and how those claims are false. You can read all this in the little blurb on the bottom of the Google page, and I go, why would the first result on Google about the guy who invented the PCR test say something about claims against the PCR test being false? Don't you think the first thing I would get is maybe his Wikipedia page, or his great invention and why it's so wonderful? Why was the first result a dispute over claims that the PCR test wasn't necessarily the greatest option for testing for coronavirus? By the way, the WHO, which the United States just rejoined, by the way, is now claiming that those tests can probably be pretty faulty and inaccurate, and you need at least 2 tests and then a verification from a physician to see if you actually have coronavirus. Shocking. Fucking shocking, isn't it? Look it up. Anywho, that's my point, though, is if you Google PCR inventor, the first article is just to try to convince you that everything is fine. This is how they manipulate everything, and that has to include Google. They write the algorithms for the search results. Now, Google's just going to go, well, we've just noticed a lot of people were Googling that when they put in PCR inventor, they click on all the articles that talk about how the PCR test is not a reliable test, and we don't want to spread misinformation, which all they do is spread misinformation. But when we say the media and the government And the technology companies are a bunch of dirty, lying pieces of shit. They go, we don't lie. No. You know how to manipulate information. For example, let's say a white cop shoots an African American, let's say unarmed African American individual. Headlines read, Google results read, white cop murders unarmed black man. Okay, fair. Let it ride, fair. Now, black Secret Service agent, not that it should matter, armed black Secret Service agent shoots Capitol right-wing extremist protester, killing. Shooting. Not murder, though. These are headlines. And most people only read headlines. So when people from the media go, we don't lie, they're weird lies by omission. Start paying attention to that. Start paying attention to how when they want to demonize something, they talk around everything without ever getting to the point. That's becoming a big problem. And when they want to, we'll stay on the demonizing train here, they adjust words in their headlines to make things seem more sinister, a lot of the times without evidence. Now, when something goes against the government tech media narrative, the headlines read one way. When it goes for the narrative, they read another way. Now, the same things are said, but it's how they're said. And just the blatant lies. Like the PCR test, for example. Which the guy did a video on, saying that it wouldn't be the best thing for this. So far, you realize they've tested gorillas that have tested positive for COVID. Now, a lot of people will go, it's not that weird. It actually is kind of weird. But you know what's even more weird? Kiwis. Yeah, the fruit. Not the Australian kind of people. The fruit. They've tested positive as well. And the World Health Organization now says, well, you need more than one of those tests. And after the second one, you still need to go to a doctor to have it confirmed. The day after Biden is sworn in. Dr. Fauci said today that he expects cases to start plateauing very soon. Yeah. Nothing but doom and gloom since the very beginning of this pandemic. Nothing but doom and gloom. Stories that terrorize you. Oh, in this country, this many people. In the United States, this many people. Record numbers. Let's not talk about the flu being totally eradicated. It doesn't exist anymore. To this day, you can go look that up. There's no flu anywhere. Nothing to see here. See, that's how they lie. That's how they manipulate. And the American people are bombarded with information every single day that they can't go through the information on their own. And honestly, I don't care if they do or not anymore. The average American person, I'm going to say this, but I'll preface it by saying, if you get mad at what I'm about to say, you're one of the people I'm talking about. The average American is very stupid. Maybe stupid is too broad of a term. Ignorant. But more than anything, they're gullible. They're gullible. And a lot of people blame boomers, which I do. I blame everybody, though. Now, the reason there's an argument to be made for boomers being so fucking gullible is that they have watched a lot more history in the United States. And every time there was a war, they bought into it. Okay, fair. A lot of that was pre-internet, free information. Free exchange of ideas. We're post all that now. We're post free exchange of ideas. That doesn't happen anymore. You're a slave in your own country. You're a prisoner in your own country. You're a wage slave in your own country. And you better shut up and work your job and pay your taxes. Don't speak out against the tyranny happening against you. Or now you're a terrorist and a right-wing extremist. See how that works? I can't believe they're still letting people label people terrorists. You see what happens when they label people terrorists. The government gives a bunch of money to the military to go murder people. Anyway, what was I saying before that, Tom? I don't remember. Kind of got off on a tangent. Something. You're all a bunch of dum-dums. Not you guys. Oh, so the boomers. So then, they saw the things happen in real time with nobody to listen to but the legacy press. So, as they're growing up and now they're smart adults, they're the ones that tend to still believe everything, although they watched something they were told was the truth from the beginning. And as years go by and the internet comes out and more information comes out, it was clear that they were lied into many things, including war. Now, the government can't lie you into war. They can't do it. They're not capable of it. Nobody listens to the government. When's the last time you watched C-SPAN? Exactly. But you know what you do listen to? You listen to the news. And isn't it weird that when the government wants to go to war, there sure is a lot of pro-war talk on the news? Now I know what you're thinking. Well, they have to report the news. That's their job. You ever notice you don't really watch them report news anymore? Oh, sure, they might have a squirrel water skiing and go, ha ha ha, that's cute, in between Matt Lauer raping women. But let everybody covered up and pretend they didn't know about. Oh, you forgot about that already. Yeah, Matt Lauer fired for being a rapist. And just a very sick individual. I think he had a drawer full of dildos that he sodomized women with. Like interns, you know. Matt Lauer, though, everybody. The beloved American anchorman, Matt Lauer. Now, keep in mind, he's just one of the ones that got caught. These people are probably all pretty sick fucks because they're looked up to by an entire nation. And they know that they lie to that nation every single day to push whatever agenda it is they're told to push. And in return, they get millions of dollars in fame and fortune, and everybody looks up to them. And what people don't realize is that turns most people into absolute wretched monsters who rape people in the ass with dildos because they think they can. Harvey Weinstein, beloved. Beloved by all the people you're told to beloved. And it wasn't until the outcry was so big that people just walked on away. It's like, didn't know anything about that, Harvey. Oprah, Meryl Streep, they didn't know. They didn't know. Although you've been told since the Harvey Weinstein thing, oh, everybody knew everybody knew he kind of did some things, but I didn't know it was that bad. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Because when somebody comes out and they go, and they're trying to look good, but they knew about something, they go, well, I heard he was a little, he could get forceful with the ladies, and he's got a reputation, but nobody knew it was this bad. Yeah, you did, because that's what people say when they knew that, and they had to acknowledge something after being silent for years. And they finally feel like, well, I better say something now before I get in trouble. They downplay it. Human nature. Anyway, back to the news. Back to anally sodomizing by force interns or whoever. These are your beloved press correspondents that give you your news every day. You wake up to them. You have coffee with them every morning. They drink wine. They seem like a fun bunch. And even if they are inherently good people, they're still responsible for giving you your news. And if you go back and you look, every time the government wanted you to go to war, these people all jumped on board. Every single time. And you still trust them. Apparently 46% of you trust them. Oh, and if you speak out against them, you're a right-wing terrorist and extremist. Now, if the people responsible for lying you into war isn't exactly the government, it's the propaganda arm of the government, why isn't Antifa out there protesting media? In fact, why does it seem they're defending media? And let's take Antifa off the table. Why does it seem like so much of the United States that wouldn't be considered extremist, why do they still believe these people? And why do they believe them after being lied to for so long, when the mainstream or legacy media says, you can't listen to these alternative forms of news, that's fake news. That's extremist news. That's hate news. That's domestic terror news. It sounds to me like they're afraid, but I don't know what they have to be afraid of, because you people won't wake up. You won't wake up. Let me tell you, this is going to sound crazy to your average bird, right? But let me tell you how I do it. I read something, like let's say an NBC breaking news headline, and it says, 70 people killed in a train accident in Glasgow, Scotland. And I go, I don't believe you. And people go, why would you not believe that? And I go, because they lie about everything. They're probably lying about this. There's evidence everywhere. There's nobody denying that this happened. I go, well, you made your bed. You got to lie in it. I don't believe a fucking word you say. What's that, a poll? You want me to read a poll and actually believe it? Keep in mind when I told you the 46%, I go, I mean, who knows if that's true or not? It's probably not. But have you already memory holed in your stupid little brains the polling that happened in 2016? 2015? Did you already forget? It was all bullshit. Well, it wasn't bullshit. People were afraid to say that they were going to vote for Trump. Well, you were okay with that because you were one of the people making people afraid to say that they would vote for Trump. Because you, media, made it okay for Trump people to be intimidated. It was always funny to you. It was always funny to you when they were beat up. You wouldn't cover it, or you would kind of go, well, you know, sometimes you got to punch people in the face. We didn't forget that. So anyway, just know that your Hollywood darlings and your starlets and your media moguls and your beloved newscasters are all a bunch of filthy liars. And maybe there's some good ones in there. Maybe. But why would I believe that at this point? They've all been caught in their weird sexual scandals. They all have put their hat in the ring for politics, knowing that the average American is a fucking idiot that gives a shit what some actor thinks. Somebody who's been rich since being a young adult for pretending. And they go, look at this jacket that so-and-so wore to his award ceremony, where all these rich people get together and pat each other on the back for pretending in front of a camera. That's who you like, America. That's who you listen to. And who am I to talk you out of it? I just look at them like, why don't you shut the fuck up and entertain me? That's your job. I mean, I think you get paid enough. I don't really need to be lectured to you, guy with no world experience whatsoever. You've had your ass kissed since you can remember. You've had everybody that gets around you telling you whatever they think you want to hear that will make you feel better because you're beloved in this country. For some reason, pretending in front of a camera is the most noble cause you can have in this country. So remember, everybody, hold your actors high. Hold your media people high. Hold your corporate tech overlords high. These are the people you need to look up to. This is your future. These are your rulers. These are the people that control your government. You know, Lady Gaga sang at Biden's inauguration. So your government gives more of a shit about Lady Gaga's opinion and hearing it than they do about you being able to speak to your own representatives. Because Washington is nothing but celebrities now. That includes people outside of Washington that have access to Washington politicians and the politicians themselves now. Your technocratic overlords let you hear their voice. See, they can speak to you through their giant mega platforms until they're censored because they have the wrong opinion. But they've become celebritized to the point where they're falling victim to the same burning out of those pleasure centers as these Hollywood actors that are constantly covering up things like rape, child rape, prostitution. sodomizing young interns anally with dildos. You don't think that complex is transferring over to your political celebrities now? I mean, Congress's approval rating is horrible, but if you were to watch the news, these people are superstars. No, they haven't been affected by the same things that the rich Hollywood elite have. They're only the exact same paid actors, paid by you, to get in front of the camera and say, hey, we're looking out for you. Acting. Same people. You just got Hollywood, and then you got Washington, D.C. Scary, right? Let's move on to another story. I was saying yesterday after the show that I wanted to make them shorter. And then I go and I get on these rolls and these rants where I, to be honest with you, kill it. I do amazing. I do amazing. So, the Parler saga continues. Not much to make from this clip, but I grabbed it to compare to something else. Maloney said in a letter that she would conduct her own investigation through the House Oversight Committee into Parler's role in the attack. So, they're trying to say that Parler bears responsibility for the attack on the Capitol building. Twitter allows what the government has called terrorist organizations to post constantly. They allowed Iran to post that Trump will be assassinated by them. And they haven't been censored. I know what you're saying. They're a private platform. I don't care what you do. I don't give a shit if you go to Twitter or not. It doesn't bother me. But I'm saying you're kind of a disingenuous cunt. Because you know what they're doing and you cover for them. It's kind of like the actor thing. When it comes to your tech 100 billionaires, why does the average person, mostly on the left, let's be honest, why do they feel the need to defend billionaire tech people as they silence speech? Have you noticed they've been tricked into going, oh my god, poor Zuckerberg's being attacked. Oh, Jack Dorsey is being attacked. He only wants good for the world, man. Oh no. Why are you defending billionaire virtual kings? Why? I don't understand it. For all the eat the rich and there's inequity and inequality. Oh, they're all white too. Yeah, but nobody ever dares speak out against their technocratic overlords. It's odd, isn't it? It's almost like it's a controlled narrative, and their stupid, blind attack dogs will just go after whatever they tell them to, while they're basically, essentially, the army for the rich. I don't know, weird. She also requested that the FBI, there they are again, the FBI, everybody, they're not busy doing anything else, open its own probe into the matter and brief her on the status of the investigation. Since then, Parler has partly returned with help from DDoS Guard, a Russian technology firm that told TPM on Monday that it had agreed to provide protection for the website. Update, the digital assassins, little minions, went after the Russian place, and they got apparently they got the internet overlord supervisors, whatever mystical cabal they are, to go, oh, well, we found that this Russian site that would host Parler claims it has addresses in Belize, and the only way you can get these Belize IP addresses to actually have physical presence in those countries, which apparently your company does not. So we're going to revoke these thousands of IP addresses. Complicated, right? Speaking of complicated, you know that they got you beat, right? You can't outperform these people. They have all the money in the world, quite literally. They now have the most powerful government in the world in their pocket. Pockets, plural. And they have people volunteering to work overtime to silence everybody that they don't agree with, because it's very easily to convince these people that everyone's a Nazi, everyone's a domestic terrorist that we don't agree with. Anyway, so the reason I'm showing you this, since then, Parler has returned. A Russian technology firm told TPM on Monday agreed to provide protection. Okay, so it's still not up. But if you click on this, shit, I lost it, but we can go with this. Twitter's being sued by California for allowing child sex trafficking, or being party to, or benefit from. So the complaint is John Doe, a minor child, and through his next friend Jane Doe, plaintiff, versus Twitter Incorporated. The complaint is for benefiting from a sex trafficking venture in violation of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, violation of duty to report child sex abuse material, receipt and distribution of child pornography, and California products liability. But the priority is to shut down Parler. Now, if this made it through the courts, this here, don't you think there's many more where that came from? Luckily, though, these companies are worth more than your government. And I know you're saying, no, they're not. Yeah, they are. Yeah. The government doesn't have any money. So these people are worth more. Now, remember what I was saying about lobbyists and how you can't talk to your government, but they can. You don't think Twitter has lobbyists that they pay millions of dollars to? That probably used to be in the United States government, and all their buddies they used to play golf with and have lunch with across both sides of the aisle. You don't think those people have access to your politicians? So is it more likely that Parler will survive on the grounds of free speech, or is it more likely that your government will say Twitter did nothing wrong, there's nothing to see here, folks, Twitter will live on, they will continue to have their government protections that are not afforded to anyone else, and shut the fuck up and go back to bed. We got a war to fight. There was a suicide bombing in the Middle East. What are you worried about child sex trafficking on Twitter for? It's obviously not a big deal. We'd hear more about it, even though they control the news and everything we hear. I'm going to end it. That was good. I was feeling it. Yes. I think we started on time and went almost an hour. So, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow, I guess.